Ethan, back at the whiteboard, and in today's video I want to tell you guys about the highest paying job. Now, to be able to understand this side and this side, for this to all make sense, I want you to stick around to the end of the video where this will all come together. Now, I'm not going to be saying, anesthesiologist, petroleum engineer, Dr. Laura, yada yada, right? This is going to be a little bit different than those videos. So let's jump right in. Now, in order to understand what the highest paying job is, you have to understand what your values are. Okay, what's important to you in regards to your schedules? Working a 9 to 5, something that you're interested, something where you have, very consistent repeatability in your schedule to where you can plan stuff around it. How about time outside of work? Maybe you want to hang out with your family a lot more. Maybe you have friends or, extracurriculars or things that you got going on after that you want to be able to participate and be a part in. Is security more important to you, or is freedom? Right? Not that one's better than the other, but a little bit of job security, maybe you value that more than freedom. You're okay with working, a very routine job. Maybe you're a public servant, in the government, and maybe your career that you're in, you have a very steady income. It's very reliable. You're probably not going to be replaced, and you have, maybe a pension and retirement figured out. Or maybe you're someone that wants, a little more freedom, right? You're okay with working odd hours. You're okay with a variable income because that matters, more to you to make your own hours and have your own freedom. How much money do you want to make, right? Is making money more important than having security? Is that more important than, how your schedule is going to look, right? How much money do you want to make, right? Stuff like that. Legacy and status, right? When you're 6 feet deep underground, what kind of legacy do you want to have behind, right? For your friends and family and your community. What kind of status do you want to have, right? And at some level, we're all emotional creatures and we all want some sort of sense of importance in our life. So how are you going to fulfill that sense of importance, especially through your work? So you got to figure that out. Would you value something that's more fast paced or slow paced, right? Maybe you want something fast paced, so maybe, you really attract yourself towards sales or something like that, right? Always new leads, always new stuff going on. Maybe you want something a little more slow, right? Maybe you got big projects and they take time, okay? Looking at your calling and inner voice. So maybe there's something that's, it's always going on in the back of your mind and it's like, man, I really need to, for my life to feel fulfilled, if I could do that one thing, yeah, I'd be good. If I could do that, stuff would be good. And that's, it takes time to develop this and figure out what this is. You kind of just have to listen. Are you introverted or extroverted? Okay, do you want to work in the front desk or do you want to work in the back office? Right? What kind of personality do you have and what kind of job is that going to suit? And then you have meaning that kind of goes in with the calling and the inner voice point that I made. And that's just no matter how hard or challenging the job is that you're doing, it's at least you have some sort of meaning and some sort of fulfillment within the job that you're doing. All right, let's head over here to this side of the whiteboard. So at a bare minimum, you have to at least like what you do, or at least not resent it, right? You have to be able to tolerate the thing that you're doing day in and day out, and it's not always going to be enjoyable, right? But you got to at least tolerate it. Knack and ability. So what's the thing that just kind of naturally comes to you, right? You're just naturally just kind of good at it. And don't tell me you don't know or have anything like this. You just haven't spent the time to be able to develop and figure out what that is. So I advise you to take the time and figure out what that is for yourself. Here's an example. If you're good at math, you don't want to be like, okay, I'm good at math, I should probably do engineering. Okay, to me, that seems like a very weak reasoning for why you should be in engineering, right? There's a whole other bunch of points as to why you should pursue some sort of career over another one. But just because you have a knack in one thing doesn't mean it's specifically designed for one thing and one thing only. What do you gravitate towards, right? What just makes the time fly by? Okay, what when you're doing it, you just kind of get lost to it, or when you're doing something throughout the day, your mind just kind of naturally drifts towards it. That's something to really pay attention to. But what if you're like, Ethan, I like sitting on the couch eating bonbons and watching Netflix. Well, does that make sense, right? And who am I to say, right? Maybe you're the first person to figure out how to monetize something like that, but it's got to be something that's socially responsible, okay? It has to, in some way, meaningfully contribute to society. And of course, you have to be able to at least make money from it, right? If you don't make money, your kids don't eat. If you don't make money, the power goes off, right? Those are very basic things that are so important, that are just necessities of life. Your intuition and your gut. Some people call it a hunch, some people call it your sixth sense. But looking at your intuition, it's that voice in the back of your head that's always guiding you, right? It's like that internal guidance system. Maybe you're sitting on the couch and you're like, man, you're thinking, man, I should really go work out. Like, I shouldn't be here. I should go work out. Or you're eating something, you're like, I shouldn't be eating this. I should be like eating something healthier. I shouldn't be scrolling on my phone. I should be doing homework. Your mind knows the right thing to do. It's just a matter of us to be able to listen and actually act on those things that our mind is telling us to do. And then this kind of transitions into your gut and feeling. So I'm sure you guys have experienced this. You're just in a situation or something, and maybe you're like, man, I don't know what it is, but like, I shouldn't do this thing. It just doesn't feel right. Right? I can't explain it, but it just doesn't feel right. Or maybe you move somewhere, you're doing something, and you're like, man, this just has a good feeling to it. Like, I can't explain it, but it just feels good. Do not ignore that feeling. That's so important. And this takes time to be able to, really figure out and internalize, but it's something that's definitely worth pursuing. So the secret sauce to all this is to be able to have your values align with your work, okay? And in my experience and my research, the best way to do this is to become a business owner. Okay, now becoming a business owner is several orders of magnitude more challenging than an employee. There's benefits and downfalls to it. But think about this. You set the conditions when you're a business owner. I like to think of it as like a buffet. Okay, so here's the things you like to eat or whatever, right? Your values and your ideal conditions for work. When you're a business owner, you get to decide, okay, what are the things I want, right? It's like a buffet, right? There's a bunch of options. I want this and this and that. In this sense, it would be, I have extra time. I don't mind working 12 hours a day. Okay, I could do that. I prefer freedom over job security. I'd like to make my own wage. The thing that I'm doing, I think I could develop, a good status for myself. That's important to me. And then maybe you head over here and you're like, man, I'm always thinking about this thing. I'm super passionate about it. I'm naturally, kind of gifted at this one aspect of this job or this business that I want to pursue, and it just feels right, right? When you're a business owner, when you pursue to be a business owner, and in this sense, you're at the buffet, right? You get to choose your conditions. You also set the wages, right? And maybe you've read the book The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, but I like to think of it as in terms of your time, money, and happiness, right? Because time and money and happiness, they're all a form of currency. And so one example that I like to use here is, say you're really into making beads, okay? You just really like making bracelets and necklaces and all sorts of stuff like that. So you're like, okay, I want to start a business. So you're out there and you're making necklaces and bracelets and maybe do workshops and stuff, right? You're making this to where you can make a reasonable income, and say you're making 40 grand a year, 35 grand a year, something like that. Not making a whole bunch of money, but every day you wake up and you're super pumped to do that thing, where you could either do that or maybe work a corporate job where you make 70 grand a year. Okay, which one's worth more? Which one's more important to you? Right? You got to weigh that. All right, so this is the part where it becomes the highest paying job. If you're a business owner, right, you're doing your thing over here, odds are you're probably pretty good at what it is that you do. And if you are pretty good, you can probably command good money for what it is that you're doing, right? Being a business owner is one of the only things where you don't really have a ceiling to how much money you can make. You could make 10 grand a year, you could make 400 grand a year, you could make millions a year, right? It all depends. Whereas if you're, take the traditional job route and pursue something like, a plumber, electrician, or engineer, doctor, lawyer, whatever the case may be, maybe you start at 60 grand and then, next year 65 and then 68 and 70 grand. Like, it's a very linear progression in how much money you can make. Whereas when you're a business owner, you kind of set your own wages, and there's no ceiling to how much money you can really make. And then from the employee perspective, it's like you order off the menu, right? It's like, I want the number 7, the number 6, right? The engineer, the lawyer, right? The combo meal. You may not like everything in that combo meal, but for the most part, you know, it's got some big things that you like and you can do with, you can manage with the other things that are in there. All right, guys, if you stuck around to the end, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. If you like this video, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And with that, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Take care.